What is up? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Talkative. I'm your host, Jason Martinez. We're back for episode 9, and this is the second guest episode of the show. And I'm joined here by my cousin, friend, family member, Wilson Martinez. Wilson, give a word.
It's an honor to be featured on my cousin and his podcast. And it's something that I admire, simply being able to produce content, putting whatever's on your mind, throwing it out to the world so other people and other human beings around the world may consume your content. And in a way, you're sharing your thoughts, although not on a personal level. Someone out there is still gonna, hear your words. And I feel like just making change and just overall, advocating different things. Like, for example, today's topic, we're going to be touching on nutrition, and we're going to be touching on how, nutrition, how it ties in with tech. It's crazy how, like, Jason knows how crazy times are right now in terms of tech, where we have new things coming out every month, new prototypes. Now we're getting into an age where, now it's electric vehicles. They're going to be the new waves. Not going to be no more, gas cars. Now we're even in the farming industry, we're having a bunch of new crazy things. And I feel like bringing attention to tech is important, but I think it's also as equally as important to bring attention to disabilities. And it's crazy because it's like they're all intertwined. I don't know if you could agree with me, but I feel like more
No, yeah,
tech helps
100%.
more people with disabilities. And then I feel like something that people don't talk a lot about is the organic part in it. What do you do naturally in your life that does not involve technology that helps you improve on your day-to-day basis?
No, I mean, you're 100% correct. I mean, all these topics in a way tend to correlate with one another, even if it's through like finding the best fitness apps that you could use to track your steps, your calories, or just particular workouts. Just one thing that came to my mind just now is how the Apple Watch and Apple Fitness correlates, where you could literally set up your own different workouts, track your calories. So in a way, that's a main part of how nutrition and tech correlate, is that there's many platforms where you just keep an eye on all those stats and all that for sure. So I do agree with that. And in terms of disabilities, there's a major correlation that I'm gonna describe here in a moment, involving particular nutrition conditions that affect a lot of people, specifically with cognitive or brain injuries like cerebral palsy or any of those disabilities that start from there. And those conditions include malnutrition, undernutrition, and overnutrition. So, malnutrition is a condition that results from deficiencies, underconsumption, or overconsumption of one particular nutrient. So, basically, when you're consuming too less of something that you should be consuming, or you're consuming too much of something that you should not be consuming. So
So
that's
it's like
where,
the head title, I guess, of the next two, which would be undernutrition, overnutrition, right?
yep, correct. And if you want to take that one, go ahead. Undernutrition.
Well, undernutrition, it occurs when you don't get enough nutrients. So, for example, it's because, all right, so undernutrition is when you don't get enough nutrients. So, especially protein and energy. And this, obviously, if you're a developing child, you're going to get hit with impaired growth. You might have difficulty growing, brain development. There's going to be changes in your weight, deficiencies, all that type of bad stuff that we do not want to see. However, there's a big misconception that if, as long as you're eating, you're nourished, and that's wrong, because then we have overnutrition, where it occurs through the overconsumptions of certain energies. And where I have seen this personally in my life is people who love the gym, people who love to work out, maybe they're not educated enough, or maybe they, make a simple mistake and they end up, taking too much protein, or maybe someone changes their diet because they want to lose weight, and they might not include carbs, and maybe they need a certain amount of carbs. And I feel like it's all about the perfect balance. So it's
Definitely.
not, you don't want to eat less, and think that you're doing better, and you don't want to eat more and think that you're doing better. It's more of targeting the balance in every single nutrient that you need. Are you getting enough of it? Are you getting sufficient? And sometimes living with a disability, it can be hard because you already have, you know, other things on your back. And then that's why with a disability, it's something that you should very much pay attention to, is your nutrition, because if you already have a health problem, a health condition, you want to be as healthiest and as fit as you can be.
Yeah, and I feel like that falls into like having certain food allergies as well. I feel like when people have certain food allergies mixed in with certain medical conditions, it makes it hard for you to know what proper nutrients you should have. For example, there's a lot of people who are allergic to fruits, in particular apples, anything that's like
I
what do you
hate that,
call
man.
it?
It's like when you bite into an apple, things gonna be the best thing ever, and then like your tongue gets scratchy.
Exactly, your tongue gets scratchy, or when you tend to swallow a piece of pineapple, literally the whole part of your throat just aching
My
in pain.
sister has that. She can't eat pineapple.
Yeah, and that's the tough part, because when it comes to those particular fruits, you get a lot of vitamins and a lot of particular fibers, healthy nutrients overall. And but that allergy aspect of it is blocking you from consuming that particular nutrient. And when it comes to having a disability or a medical condition where you can't digest certain nutrients or you can't consume those, then that leads to just more conditions to follow. You're consuming less, you're losing a lot less weight, you're becoming more frail because you're not consuming the right amount of nutrients that you need to consume. And it just, it makes it hard. It makes maintaining a healthy lifestyle extremely hard.
It does make it extremely difficult. I have a friend who, unfortunately, she was born with celiac disease, which is different from gluten allergies. The
Mhm.
difference is that she has an actual disease, an actual condition where her body cannot digest gluten, while other people are allergic. So if you're allergic, you can go through a treatment where you build up immunity to your allergy. And we've seen this a lot in people who own pets. They get their first dog, they start sneezing
That's
all the
true.
time, but 2 years down the line, they cuddle with their dog and they're fine. Now, the thing with celiac disease is that she can't build up her tolerance to gluten. So, having that major restriction causes a lot of problems, not even in her because the thing about health is that there's different aspects, not even in her physical health, but even maybe her social or her mental health, where
Yeah.
if you were to go to, if you're going out with a bunch of friends to eat, and you want to make sure you don't get something that might cause harm to you, so you might have to ask a little extra question like, hey, can you make my
Yeah.
burger with lettuce instead of buns? And then you know people aren't exactly nice every day, so somebody may give attitude here and there, and then it's just like more thinking and then more stress, and then it's just not a healthy cycle. And it's definitely something that I've seen people struggle with, is allergies, and how they struggle to choose what to eat due to their allergies. Like, if I can't eat this, where am I going to get this nutrient? So they have to find a substitute.
Yeah, I was gonna mention the fact of going out to a restaurant and you have this urge to want to eat whatever you want, whatever you like, but because of this condition or because of this particular blockade, you can't eat this because it can negatively affect you. So you have to go with the extra question. You have to go with the extra precautions because of that particular reason. And it makes it hard socially because maybe some people could be insecure about that factor. Maybe some people don't want to reveal too much out in public and say that I can't eat this because of this, or can you take this out and you know um, switch it out with this particular food. And it just it creates a whole blockade in that social aspect because some people maybe don't want to reveal too much or just be open about these particular things,
You're
and
a
they rather be
hundred
discreet.
percent right.
Yeah, they
A
rather
hundred
be
percent right.
discreet.
These individuals, they have their own sense of identity, and they do not want to be known as the girl who's allergic to gluten. They want to be known by who they are and what they do. So that's one thing that my friend has told me, that back when she was younger, when she didn't really live much, she didn't really know much about what was going on. She would tell people, or she wouldn't go out of her way to tell people, but like any situation or anything, she would most likely speak up and be like, hey, I have a gluten allergy, or I can't eat this, or I can't eat that. And she says that now as she's older, she realized that it's not something she shares because yeah, she can't eat bread or whatever, but it's not her identity. That's not who she is. She's not just the girl who can't eat bread. She's so much more. And I feel like it's also an identity thing. Like, are you really
Yeah,
just that one kid with allergies to that one thing? Like, no, that's not who you are. You're a whole individual, a whole person. You you could bring value into this world.
exactly. This is just take it as something that I have to live with, but not something that I have to be defined by. I mean, it goes the same as like a physical or mental disability. For my case, for example, I've always told to myself, I don't want to be defined as the kid in the wheelchair, or I don't want to be defined as the kid who can't walk, because that's not who I am. This is just something that wasn't something that I've been have to live with and cope with, but never anything that I have to just be defined by. Same thing goes with having a nutrition deficiency. You shouldn't be defined off of that, because that's not who you are, like you stated. That's just something that you have to cope with and live with no matter what.
It's like if you get a set of twins, same genes, these two kids, 100% like similar. And then in one of the kids, you throw them out, I don't know, put one kid in California, one kid in New York. They're both in the US, they're different coasts. It's very hard that these kids are ever going to meet each other in their developing years. And then you can fast forward 20 years ahead of time. One person might look completely, totally different than the other person. And that comes in that it's your environment that affects you as well. Environment affects who you are and who you develop to become. So why should you identify yourself only with your environment? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like,
I always 100%.
if you were someone who lived a harsh life and you struggled and you suffered through malnutrition, whether it would be overnutrition or undernutrition or whatever struggle you had, I think that struggle doesn't define you. What defines you is how you got over that struggle.
Exactly. Perfect way to put it. What's more valuable in this sense is how you've overcame that particular struggle, not the struggle itself. Two different things, and those two different things have different sets of value. For example, somebody who can't draw or can't write properly because they have a particular deficiency with their hands, or maybe their muscles are weak. Over time, they practice. And this goes for me too. And this is something that anyone that has a particular situation like this, it takes time. It's not the easiest thing to overcome, because it comes with a lot of factors. Putting time in, or perhaps pain, or maybe focusing on your consistency. Maybe you're not a person that's too consistent and you can't practice all day because you have that particular situation. But let's say you have a particular physical disability or what have you that causes that how do I say it, prevents you from drawing properly or writing properly. And let's say that particular person loves to write, loves to draw, loves to be creative. Over time, they're going to want to be better. They're going to want to practice. They're going to want to overcome that particular situation, rather than just let the particular obstacle overshadow them, because they love drawing, they love creativity. So what are they going to do? They're going to practice. They're going to better their muscles. They're going to work on their muscles and improve on that aspect, and eventually become an author or a potential artist. That's what's more valuable at the end of the day.
100% right. I'm currently finishing my last year in high school right now, so I'm actually witnessing a lot of things with just simply people like me and them growing up into adulthood. And that involves getting into relationships. And just like you said, I've seen the kid who got into a relationship, gets heartbroken, all of a sudden starts going to the gym, starts working out, starts joining the football team, his grades go up, like maybe he got a car or something. And then you see the kid who maybe got heartbroken or whatever, And then that kid, he is going to parties, he's doing different things that maybe your average high schooler shouldn't aim to focus on. And I feel like that shows a lot about a person. Like, are you gonna, like, are you smart enough to know to make the right choices to better yourself? And
Exactly.
sometimes I think that people aren't even aware. Like, I am very self-aware when it comes to, something I'm doing wrong, although I might procrastinate, and like you said, I might not be consistent, might not practice to be better to it. I'm definitely aware, and it's definitely something in the back of my head. Now, it's not something that I'm gonna let over consume me to the point where I'm overthinking about it, because that's unhealthy. But I'm definitely gonna, be aware and bring attention to it. Hey, if maybe uh, you know, something, maybe I got an 80 on the paper, maybe I want to get a 90, I'm just going to be in the back. I'm not going to overthink and cry about how I didn't get a 90. I'm not going to go out there and find a way to, deal with that. I'm just going to, look at it, accept the reality, and move on.
Yep, and that's another thing too, bro, is influences. I feel like a lot of people are driven from what they see elsewhere. For example, going back to the whole relationship talk, right? Those things that people do when they do get heartbroken are things that they resort to because they've seen it elsewhere, and they say, "Oh, maybe this could be a good way to cope with my pain or to just numb my pain," right? Same thing with the grades. People see A+ students, valedictorians, top of the class graduates, and they say, "Wow, like, this is where I should be, because if I'm not, my family's gonna be disappointed, my elders are gonna be disappointed, everyone's in my family's gonna look at me the wrong way." And instead, they're not focusing on the now. They're not focusing on how they could get a better grade on the next test because they're too influenced by the numbers.
That's something that you see a lot in immigrant families.
For sure.
Because you have your standard typical immigrant family, whether it be from whatever part of the world, they go through their hardships, they get tired of it, and they, what, they pick up their stuff and they're like, I'm moving to America, I'm gonna start my family there, and I'm gonna give my kids a better life. And then they come here, and then obviously they don't want to go through everything that they went through just to see their students, not their students, their kid, their sons and daughters fail. But sometimes what they don't understand is that failing is part of the process. How am I going to learn to get up if I never fell down?
I mean, honestly, bro, I'm pretty sure you've heard of this before. If everything was easy, life would be pointless. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
If everything was just handed to you on a silver platter, there would be no meaning in the life that you're living currently. So that goes with failure as well. First of all, if you're not failing, you're not learning. If constantly you're trying your best to be a perfectionist, always do things right perfectly without making a single mistake, how are you to learn to prevent any mistake that you experience in the future if you don't fail?
No one's that good. Everybody makes mistakes. No one is that good to the point where you are making no mistakes. Because if you are making no mistakes, then you are a mistake yourself for not making mistakes. If that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. And on talking about on this creative side of things with the podcast, there's so many times where I'm doing like 5 to 4 takes because I either mess up with my intro, or there's probably background noise, or somebody comes in, and either instead of just being totally upset and saying, wow, like this entire 35 to 45-minute episode just got cut short, now I have to restart. I don't think about that. I just restart. And even if it takes 4, 5, 6 takes, the most important thing out of it is that I'm getting my content out and I'm getting my recordings in. You get what I mean?
What you're doing is great, man. It's like whatever's in your head, you're throwing it on the screen, talking about the screen, talking about yourself, whatever's on your head, bringing awareness to certain things, and then just throwing it out there. And I feel like just doing all that and just throwing it out there, you never know. One person might be scrolling on TikTok, might see a little clip, or someone might, on Instagram, somebody's friend might, go into someone else's story, see your podcast, give it a listen, and maybe they're not a fan of you, or maybe they're not a fan of your content, but maybe that short clip, or maybe that short episode, or maybe that one thing that they picked up from the content that you're producing and putting out there, made them think about something. Or maybe, I'm not saying, someone's gonna turn on your podcast and all of a sudden the next day you're gonna wake up a millionaire, but maybe someone might wake up and be like, scrolling on TikTok, see your podcast, and might be like, what, that's right. Never thought of it that way.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. And even if the growth is slow and stagnant, the journey is what matters the more. You feel me? I mean, doing this has been fun, has been great. I mean, getting people like you and then a couple of my buddies on here, it's been phenomenal. And talking about things that we find interest in, or raising awareness in certain situations like disabilities or like nutrition, it's been great. But the growth in itself has been slow and stagnant, but that's okay. That's all part of the journey, like you mentioned previously. you know and yeah, even if people don't directly like me or my content for what it is, they're going to look at some of the clips on TikTok or any of the clips that I post elsewhere, and they're going to say, you know what, this kid's right, or you know what, I can relate to this. And that's what really starts the whole growth aspect of a platform through one clip.
It's also crazy that we're talking about growth right now, because what are you doing right now, or what have you been like mentioning, or what have you been speaking to me about doing right now, is how you have to restart. Someone comes in your room, you have to restart. Those are all mistakes, and you're making mistakes, and you're making a ton of them, and you're making like so many mistakes. But what I admire of you is that you're aware of that you're making all these mistakes, and you're aware that these mistakes are going to help you grow, and you don't just get sad that you're making mistakes, but you analyze it and you learn from it. You're like, all right, maybe this episode didn't come out good because I was on this side of the room, or maybe my window was open, it was windy. Now next time you close your window or whatever. It's like little things that you learn as you go. I think the journey, like you said, is the best, and you're on a journey right now. It's the journey of life. You know what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
you don't want to. Something you always want to do is take a step back and look at the bigger picture. So no matter what it is, whether you failed the test or something, look back, look at the bigger picture. It's a test. You still have 80 years of your life to live. Like, you're gonna worry about a test. Yeah. It's also, you have 80 years of your life to live. When you're 80, you're not exactly going to be able to do what you're doing now. So what do you want to do? You want to, you don't want to fall into the trap of like, oh, I'm young, I'm enjoying myself and have fun. Definitely, you're young, enjoy yourself, have fun, but also think about the future in a good way. How am I going to help my future self? Or if 30 years from now, what can I do now that me from 30 years will appreciate? So something could be like what you do, invest. I know that you're investing into stocks, and I know for a fact 35 years later, that Jason from 35 years later is going to look back and he's going to be so glad that you right now did what you did.
Exactly. I mean, I feel like, and we'll go back into nutrition, is that I like these tangents that we get in, because it adds more to the overall recording, and it adds more to the overall topics. But we'll trace back to nutrition in a bit. I just want to mention this briefly. Talking about people who are young and taking advantage of their time. What's one thing that's a major pet peeve for me, is when people in my age apply to a particular university or apply to a college, right? And in front of you, the picture in front of you may seem like, oh, my son or daughter are out to do great things, they're out for greater things. But in reality, their only motive is to waste time, party, waste their entire financial aid, waste their entire parents.
Crazy upstate.
Yeah, but look, bro, here's the thing. It's like all you're doing is wasting precious time and money, and for what, bro? You get what I'm saying?
Think about it this way though.
Uh-huh.
They're not wasting their own money. Mm-hmm. So you know what I'm saying? Like if I'm a 18-year-old individual who just graduated high school, and my parents or guardians are like, you know what, you have to go to college, and they let me go to whatever college I go, and I pick like a college like Buffalo or something with the purpose of literally doing what people who go to Buffalo do. And then, why would I be worried about it? You know what I'm saying? It's not my debt. They're the ones paying for it. So, and we have another thing where, it's kids being selfish and immature. Like, I know some kids would be like purposely go somewhere where, they're getting the scholarship, where they're getting the money to save their parents money. They're being considerate and thoughtful, while other people are just like, no, I want to go to this college and that's it. And then their parents just oblige. And I think that's not something that, I feel like big decisions like that impact your future should be well thought out.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, if you're gonna go to a college, make good time out of it. Make good use out of it. I mean, this is for your own education. This is for your own future. It's okay to have fun. By all means, I'm not downing on the idea of having fun, bro. We go through a lot of stress as college students. If you want to go to a party, if you want to go to this event, have at it. But at the same time, just keep your priorities straight. And this goes for anyone who's in college right now. Just make sure your priorities are always straight and always intact, and have fun at the same time. But yeah, bro, I mean, that's the point. Like, it all depends on how you're dealing with the situation and what decisions you make.
Yeah, and the thing is, some people might not have the resources to make certain decisions, and that's one thing that, it's just horrible. It's something terrible in life where maybe you encounter yourself someone who isn't educated, and they go and they try to buy a car, they get a car loan, all of a sudden they're stuck with all this debt, and then they're stuck in this system, in this cycle where all they do is work, pay bills, pay debt, work, pay bills, pay debt. And then it's like, that person wouldn't have taken that deal if they were aware, if they had the resources to know, or if maybe, maybe someone next to them had the knowledge of it, like, hey, look, that's not a good deal, maybe your interest rates aren't up, or so a lot of times you can't blame people. So what my mindset is, or in a way I blame the situation, but what I have been realizing recently is that instead of putting blame towards things, it's better to express gratitude, in the sense that, be thankful that you just have the ability to wake up and breathe and do what you have to do today. All part of, taking a step back, looking at the bigger picture, instead of stressing so much about how, for example, I don't know, you didn't pass your road test, you might be thankful that at least you had the opportunity to take your road test. Look at it in a positive way. You made a mistake, you're going to learn from that mistake for next time you're going to pass, And it's mindset is something very important, that if you don't have the right mindset, you can go wrong really fast.
Yeah, and having the right mindset leads to just overall, I think it brings the best out of people when it comes to overall thinking, sense, and decision making when you have the right mindset. When you have a poor mindset, you tend to just think impulsively, maybe go off of what other people's opinions or what other people say, and not trust your own gut, or do things that you will later regret. Is the effects of having a poor mindset. I mean, that's how I see it.
Exactly. It's horrible because, like I said, a lot of people, they don't have the resources. People grow up in horrible households, and they don't. Not everybody speaks up. And this is, everybody knows this. If a kid gets spanked at home, he might not speak up or whatever, and that's fine. That kid might grow up and it's normal, 100%. He has a great relationship with his family or whatever. But then there's other kids that it's not just the spanking. Other kids that maybe it's not even physical at all. Maybe it's just strictly verbal. Maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe it's the kid comes home from school. What's the one thing you want when you come home from school? You usually want like either some food or someone to be like, hey, how was school? How was your day? Usually your mom or whoever's in the kitchen asks you, or whoever's in the living room when you walk in the house. But, there's the harsh reality is that there's people out here who they go home from school and they don't get a, how was your day? They might come home straight from school, and the first thing they might hear is like, maybe they come home from school, they're having a great day, and then the first thing they hear is something horrible that just ruins their day. There's people that deal with this on like maybe a daily basis, and they grow up, and then they grow up with this poor mindset, and it's like, how are you going to explain to a 24-year-old that his mindset is not right? How are you going to teach this person or help this person out if they have no clue what you're talking about because they never had that growing up?
Yeah, 100%. I get what you're saying. And this falls especially in kids, bro. I'm talking about ages 9 and up. When kids don't get that significant attraction or affection or that love at such an early age, they're gonna grow up to just see everything the way that they saw it, 10 to 15 years ago. They're gonna perceive people the same way that their parents did when they were young. No love, no affection, no care
Yeah,
whatsoever.
100% right. And then that's why we have this cycle of abusive relationships. You have this one kid who's born into this family. Unfortunately, the marriage isn't working. Unfortunately, they get abusive, and maybe they make up after they abuse each other or whatever. And then it's like this toxic cycle that we're all aware of, this toxic cycle that most of us have known or seen from movies or from TVs or somewhere, where it's a couple, they fight, then they make up for it, and then they fight again, they make up for it, but they're always in this constant state of fighting, and then making up for it is just them ending the fight to start another one later. So a kid growing up seeing this, then that kid might grow up, that kid might fall in love, and then that kid might not know exactly what to do, and maybe he gets angry or she gets angry, and maybe then they begin to participate in an abusive relationship. And yeah, this person is old enough for them to know what's right and what's wrong, but can are they to blame? Are their parents to blame? Or is it the situation to blame? So that's what I'm saying. If you start looking at little things like that and just looking for blame, you're really going to end up nowhere. While if you grab this person and maybe instead of looking for who to blame for their problems, maybe just sit
Try to get
down and
under
be like,
their
hey, take
shoes
a deep breath, then
yeah.
everything changes.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And just to wrap this up, this little segment here, the main thing that's developed after all this is grudges. People tend to hold grudges, especially for a long time. And it's like, why do you want to hold a grudge for so long? For example,
can you do that? Have you ever, what's the longest time you held a grudge for?
to be honest, bro, I don't hold grudges.
It's so difficult for me to do so.
I don't hold grudges because I recognize the long lasting effect that it's gonna have on me, because the person that I'm probably holding a grudge on probably doesn't care.
Exactly.
But
so it's not
the
even
person who's getting affected more.
is you.
Go ahead.
You're not doing them a favor by providing forgiveness. You're doing yourself a favor because you're not in their mind; they're in your mind. And that's what people need to understand.
Exactly. So it's like, why hold the grudge? And me personally, I try my best not to. Yes, I can get annoyed. Yes, I can get pissed off. Maybe for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, but eventually, bro, I brush it off, and I realize to myself, the only thing I'm doing to myself right now is hurting myself, because I know that this person isn't gonna do anything to make up for it, to just reconnect or just come back.
But some people are just not worth your time.
Yeah, and it's like, why am I gonna because if you think about it this way, if you're holding a grudge towards somebody, you're giving that person more importance, more time of day than what they already need. And how about you yourself?
Yeah,
you're not giving yourself time.
World, your reality, like you said, is your like you said, when it comes to mindset, right? I feel like this ties in with taking a step back, looking at the bigger pictures. Your world is your reality. So if you want to make your life all about how you hate that one person, feel free, because that's your life and it's not mine. Yeah. But personally, I'm gonna make my life more about love and being grateful than just simply hating someone for what they did. And it's funny that you say that you try not to hold grudges. I'm the opposite. I actually try my best to hold a grudge, and then it never works. I always fail. I always fold after max, after 2 or 3 days. It's like I realize that it's not even something serious. I've been in situations where I purposely try to hold a grudge. I purposely try to stay mad at someone because I know that if I know that it's hard for me to stay mad at someone. I know it's hard for me to be angry, or it's hard for me to simply look at somebody and, you know, blame them,
not
because I
express
know
those
that,
emotions, right?
yeah, because I know that, well, personally, I believe I'm a very understanding person. So if, for example, my little cousin comes in my room, takes my Xbox controller or something, and then,
Mm-hmm.
he takes it. Obviously, I'm gonna be angry. Obviously, I'm gonna be mad. He came, he invaded my privacy, crossed the boundary, took something that's mine without my permission. I'm gonna get mad and angry, but there's also the side of me that is probably like, oh, he probably just wanted to play some video games. He probably didn't. His controller probably died. Maybe it was a serious rank game or something. So it's always a two-sided thing.
Yeah, and going back to what you said about understanding the situation and not going to prejudgments, or just going into conclusions, because I feel like that's another thing. And I'm gonna wrap it at this with this segment. That's one more thing, is that people tend to assume and jump into conclusions way too soon before knowing the situation, like you've mentioned before. And it's like, that's important, because what if you get mad at somebody over a situation and that situation wasn't accurate to what you were assuming or thinking?
That's the
or
worst.
concluding? That's the worst. Because then
That's
what
the
happens?
worst.
You feel embarrassed, you feel ashamed of yourself that you
You're
were
a
getting mad
clown.
at
You
this
were
person.
mad about somebody. You were mad
Mhm.
about something that wasn't even something, because it was nothing. If that makes sense. You were mad
Exactly.
about how, your world, your reality, right? So you made your reality something that it wasn't, and then you were mad. And then what happens in a situation like that is that you just get clowned. It's like when you yell at somebody, like, hey, why did you take it's like if I go up to my cousin, hey, why did you take my controller? He's like, I didn't take your controller. All of a sudden I'm in the wrong, because why am I going and why am I be acting so hostile towards someone
Yeah.
when they never
Took it.
deserved it?
Yeah. So I mean, it's all part of just knowing when to take control for your own actions, and knowing the
Knowing
situation.
where to set boundaries and everything, because you
Where
don't
to
want to
set- Mhm.
you don't want to be too nice and be like, oh, they took my controller, so I'm just gonna shut up about it. You just want to do things in the respectful manner. Go see my cousin, be like, hey, listen, I've lost my controller, have you seen it anywhere? And one thing that I have noticed is that, well, now that my cousin is growing older, it's a little different, but when he was younger, sometimes I would go calm and collectively go ask him something, or ask him about anything, whether it be my controller missing or whatever. And I would notice that he would retaliate, or he would act hostile when I wasn't acting hostile. And I realized that it was something that us, as teenagers and siblings, we kind of implemented this thing into him, where he feels like he needs to be hostile back. And luckily, I called him out and I was like, wait, why are you mad? And then, also was confused. He was like, I don't know. Like, you're asking, like, you're mad at me. And I'm not mad at you. I'm just, I just lost something. I was just maybe looking around. And he was like, oh, it was kind of like, we both realized that it wasn't something of importance, but, it's something that can definitely be trained in your behavior. The same way that someone is emotional and someone always gets mad, I feel like you can, like you said, practice and be better and handle better your emotions, or live a more calm and collective life.
Yeah. And what you mentioned goes back to what I said about influence, about kids at that age being influenced from what they see, from what they hear. That's a perfect example, because he's seen you act hostile, and he's like, oh, maybe I should react this way when he asks me about something. And then, those things go a long way. You feel me? For example, cursing in front of kids, using swear words in front of kids, all those things go a long way.
Yeah, because look, there's kids that I have a teacher personally, that teacher, he says I curse around my kids, I don't care.
See, that's not good.
See, you might think that's not good, but we don't live with him. We don't exactly know what type of relationship he might have with his daughter. And the way he was describing it, it didn't sound like something bad. It was more so he understood that that's how he talked, and he also, it wasn't more so that he cursed in the wrong situations. Maybe he was playing
Mm,
Call of Duty or something, he got mad at the TV or whatever, so it's more so he uses swear words or curse words or whatever in front of children. That's not good, but he's also doing his job as a parent to make sure his kids know how to be respectful. So although that kid might hear swear words from his father all the time, you'll never see that kid go up to a teacher, or in a situation where you're at like a fancy like restaurant, you're dining, you're never going to see that kid go and make a
yeah.
scene based off what they see, because I feel like it's also the parent who plays a big role in how your parents is one of your biggest influences.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, if you're gonna put it that way, then you're 100% correct. If you have that more like chill, laid back relationship with your kids, I mean, if your kid's like teenager and up, right? I want to say maybe 16 and older, then that's okay, or maybe younger than that, and that's okay. And if you're not saying it to them directly to insult them or just use verbal abuse, then that's fine. But at the end of the day,
Yeah, definitely not verbal abuse.
yeah. But at the end of the day, if you treat your kids to know when and where, you know, when to curse and when to not curse, then that's what's the most important part. Like you said, treating his kids or teaching his kids what's right. You know, going to a restaurant, obviously, you're not gonna curse in a restaurant because you've taught how to have good etiquette and how to be well educated and not curse in front of people in the restaurant. But if you're around your friends and it's just, just mainly jokes and having a good laugh and you want to curse in front of your friends and, you're at that age where, you can do that, then that's fine. That's
Because
fine.
think about it this way, right? Uh, Pretty sure his kids are young.
Mm-hmm.
So think about it this way. I'm betting my money that in 10 years, if one of his kids has a problem with anything, whether it be anything that typical, high schoolers deal with that maybe they don't tell anybody. So I don't know, maybe it could be intimate relationships, it could be substance abuse, it could be any type of, and I say these terms. I don't mean to, I'm not talking about like hardcore things. I'm also talking about like simple things, like maybe that high schooler who went to that party and got drunk, can't find a way home. You
Mm-hmm.
know, in a situation like that, or in any situation where you're in danger, you're still a child. You want to be able to call your parents. You want to be able to be like, hey, look, I'm in danger. I need help. You want them to come save your day. How are you going to do that if you have constant anxiety of like how can you be in a situation where you're in danger, but you're more scared to call your parents for help? You feel like that will put you more in danger. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like my
Yeah,
teacher,
like
what he's
having
doing with
that
his
fear.
children,
Mm-hmm.
it's something that's very controversial, something that people are always like, how do you curse in front of your kids? But I feel like in 10 years, if his kids have any problems, or if his kids need to speak about anything, I feel like they're going to be able to comfortably go up to their father and do that, because and I don't know if you noticed, but I've noticed something that like friends too, or people who have these very, relaxed and very chill parents, I guess you can say, high schoolers who maybe, yeah, go to that party, just make sure you're home by 2, or something like that. Those kids who have the most freedom are the kids who make the or out of like on average, out of like, or in comparison to the other kids, they're the ones who are least involved in, let's say, dangerous activities. So yeah, that one kid who actually has permission to come home at 2 in the morning from that party might not actually even go because they have a test the next day. But however, that other kid who is not allowed to go anywhere, he sneaks out, he goes to that party, and then something might happen to him. And maybe if he was able, or
That's
maybe if he had
yeah.
the trust or the relationship with his parents, he could have been like, hey, I'm going to the party, and maybe something differently could have happened that day. You never know.
No, I mean that's true, and I mean that falls into being rebellious or that stage of rebellion, because you live with parents that tend to like keep you within this bubble and keep this strict manner of disciplining you for so long that you're like, you know what, let me just break the bubble, let me just break the wall and rebel. When when you have those parents on the other side of the spectrum that give you a little bit of that freedom, give you a little bit of that independence, then your morals kick in. You're like, okay, they're allowing me to go to this party, which is good. They're great. They're cool with me going to this party, so let me not do anything stupid to disappoint them. So yeah, I mean, that's a great thing to point out as well. But awesome segment, awesome talk on that. We're gonna transition back into malnutrition to wrap up the episode for today. We're just gonna discuss the treatments for malnutrition and the foods that we can eat or consume to prevent malnutrition. So for treatments, we have eat fortified foods that are high in calories and protein, snack between meals, which by the way, that's an important one, and have drinks that contain lots of calories. Now, anything you have to say towards that?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. What I want people to be aware of, however, is that you don't just want to grab any drink that has a lot of calories. You don't just want to grab any Gatorade or anything, because some of these drinks aren't exactly the healthiest thing you can choose. For example, something like Gatorade might have what we call red number 40, and that's a dark red dye, petroleum based, which means it comes from oil. And there's actually an investigation by Boris M. and Mandel FS, and they're with the National Library of Medicine. They evaluated 26 children who meet the criteria for ADHD, and then they did a treatment called item elimination, which is something I guess you can do for when you have overnutrition, in a sense that you are eating over consuming certain things. You can go into what is called an item elimination diet, which means that they remove or pick certain things from your diet that aren't healthy, or certain things that you don't want to keep consuming, and you just kind of throw them out the window. And that's what they did with these kids. They anything with food dye or food coloring. Half of them participated in the item elimination, where we removed a lot of, or the people conducting the experiment removed a lot of the foods that had food dyes in them. And then the other half, they didn't. And then what happened was they noticed that 73% out of half of those children responded well and had reduced ADHD symptoms. So
Yeah.
if you're someone with ADHD, which another thing is that, there's certain diseases or certain disabilities that might, get less attention than others, or some might have more stigma than others. ADHD could be considered a disability. So
It is.
the fact that
It is.
it's one thing to look at, where it's one thing, like you were mentioning at the beginning of the episode, people have disabilities, they have to watch a lot what they eat. Maybe someone is stressing out because their ADHD is kicking in harder than usual, and maybe it's because they've been chugging a bunch of Gatorade, and maybe they don't need all that medicine. Maybe all they need is to just put the Gatorade down. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely something you want to look out for.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, another drink. I mean, you have Powerades and all these like healthy boosters, or all these healthy drinks that are obviously not healthy at all. I feel like, I mean, when it comes to Gatorade and things like diet sodas, for example, people tend to fall into the misconception that it's healthy, that it's diet soda, it's less sugar, and it falls into this aspect of not being able to look at your ingredients and read your labels. Because if you're somebody with ADHD and you're like, okay, maybe this Gatorade Zero, what have you, this Diet Coke is gonna help me with my anxiety. If anything, that's worsening your anxiety. You understand what I'm saying? So definitely watching your ingredients, watching for all these food dyes. And I mean, we can't sit here and lie. We've all drunk Gatorades. We've all drunk all these things.
Love it, man. Love it.
Yeah, we can't sit here and pretend like we've never consumed that. But at the same time, it's important to know one thing when it comes to nutrition is regulation.
I mean, let me ask you a question. When's the last time you had a Gatorade or a Powerade?
Oh, long time.
Yeah, I
like
can't remember last time I had
summers
a
ago.
A few summers ago? That's crazy. I probably had one. I don't know, probably like the past 2 months. I guess I'd have like one. Or it's like we're not. I don't want the audience to think that me and you are, fighting Gatorade or
No, we're
like
not.
we aren't trying to impose some sort of anti
We're not.
Gatorade movement. That's not
We're
what we're
not trying
doing.
to
What we're trying to
boycott Gatorade or any
yeah,
energy
no
drink or.
boycott. What we are trying to
Yeah.
do is that we're just trying to raise awareness in the sense that we want people to look at their labels, especially if you have some sort of disability, and do research on what type of disability you have. I remember telling like 3 different people, like, hey, food coloring makes your ADHD worse, and they never knew it. And
Yeah.
it's something that, like I said, people don't have the resources to make certain decisions. And once you have the resource, once you have that knowledge, then after you have that knowledge is where you can be like, hey, you know what? Now I know this.
Yeah, I mean that's the sole purpose here, is that we're trying to raise awareness and perhaps teach you guys something. Because if you love Gatorades, if you love all these type of drinks and all these different snacks, it's fine, but just make sure you know what you're putting in your body and how much of that you're consuming. Regulate that consumption. You know what I mean?
It's all about balance, taking a step back, looking at the bigger picture, realizing everything's going to be okay, and taking a deep breath and just taking care of yourself, whether that would be socially, mentally, spiritually, or physically. You want to make sure you're bringing the most value you can to the world every day. You want to make sure that you want to leave this earth better than how you found it, which is something that you don't want to throw all that responsibility onto yourself, because you're just one human being. But in terms of what you did, were you responsible for a bunch of pollution, or were you responsible for helping a bunch of people? What were you responsible for in your life? I think is a good way to look at it.
Yeah, 100% correct. Now, I'm just going to talk on one of the other treatments, and I'm going to move on to the foods. We didn't get to do a lot of nutrition talk today, but that's fine. Oh, and like how I usually like to wrap up these episodes with disability fact, we're going to wrap up with that as well. So, talking about snacking between meals. Now, look, you know the whole situation of having 3 meals a day, right? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And in between that's what we're trying to answer here, is the in between. Like, what are we consuming within those 2 hours and 3 hours, so we're not eating a major meal? That's what's most important. So I have a question for you. What do you snack on whenever you don't eat a full course meal throughout the day?
No, that's interesting. You told me that. Recently I've been more active physically, in the sense that if I say that I have 15 minutes of spare time, I'll do a couple push-ups and I'll sweat a little bit, or I'll do a couple planks, a couple crunches, nothing crazy, but just something to pass time. And because of that, well, right now I currently don't have any, but because of that, I've been buying these like protein bars, which I feel like is great, because if I need to go to school, and I'm not someone who I have a lot of insight on health and mindset and all that, but personally, I myself don't believe I live a super healthy lifestyle. Not in the sense that like I'm under, like it's not anything having to do with overnutrition, undernutrition. It just has to do with the fact that I don't really keep a balance, in the sense that I don't keep a schedule. So maybe, like, for example, today I had some cereal in the morning, but I haven't eaten anything since 4. So sometimes I do snack in between things, where my favorite snack would probably have to be a protein bar, because at that point it's like a snack hybrid meal where you kind of get full. Or I would have to go with healthy fruits or vegetables, probably a good snack.
And
but
what's your favorite bar? What's your favorite bar to eat?
My favorite bar? You can't ask me that right now, because I haven't tried them all yet. But right now, I definitely have to give my vote to RX. I think that's what they're called, the RX bars. The RX, yeah, RX bars, what it's called. So the protein bar, they're organic, it's gluten free, so it's all that good stuff for you. Their recipe is actually on their wrapper. So personally, the one that I enjoy, the one that I've been buying, is the blueberry one, and it contains here 12 grams of protein, 3 egg whites, 6 almonds, 4 cashews, and 2 dates. And then after that, they put no BS, which is kind of like their slogan. And when I first ate the bar, it sucked, man. Like, I don't know how, like, it was just chunky, heavy. It didn't taste the best, but I guess you can say it's an acquired taste, because now if you were to hand me one, I'd be like, great, this is delicious.
Mm-hmm. All right,
But
great.
in terms of,
Non-sponsored, by the way. But
yeah,
thank you for sharing
non-sponsored,
that.
but the
Yeah.
thing I wanted to tell you about, because you said snack between meals, right?
Mm-hmm.
How about you just skip the meals entirely, and then we jump into this new thing which is called intermittent fasting, I believe. Intermittent fasting, which is where people, I don't know if you've heard of this, but people
Yeah.
purposely fast so that their
Mm-hmm.
body is forced to burn their fat to run.
Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes I do that not on purpose, but sometimes where I genuinely, let's say, wake up and I don't have a meal till like 5, and then I realized that I wasn't hungry, I wasn't tired the whole day. I had a pretty good day. I realized that it's just something that I definitely need to work on is scheduling my meals, making sure I have some sort of plan. But
Mm-hmm.
it
Meal planning
usually it
is
just
another one
depends on
too.
I it depends how hungry I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know about you,
Yeah.
but if I'm really hungry, I'll go for something big. If I'm not hungry, I'll go for something small.
I mean, yeah, I'm pretty much the same way. I really don't want to do anything with food. I want nothing to do with food if basically I'm at the point where my stomach is not rumbling a little bit. But usually, like, I'll grab some grapes or some fruits, an apple or a pear. If I have, um, if there's really nothing else and the only thing that I have to snack on are like chips or anything, I'll grab a little bit of that. Going back to the whole aspect of regulation, I won't grab the whole bag and just snack on the whole bag, but I'll grab a good plate of it, and then that's all I'll eat from the chips. So I mean, yeah, if I'm really hungry, I'm gonna eat something that's jam packed. If I'm not, then I'll just find different things to snack on throughout the day. But
Also, one thing I do a lot is drink tons of water. I love water. It's my favorite drink. I could drink
yes,
as
water
much
is
water as I
important.
can a day. I could probably go through like 10 bottles of water in a day and be fine. It's while other people I see barely struggle to get like one water bottle in their body a day. And
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely something that you work on over time, because I built the habit. I would purposely bring 3 water bottles to my room and be like, all right, I don't want to see these 3 water bottles full, but 3 water bottles full by the end of the day. And then, right before I go to sleep, I realized I still have half a water bottle left. I'll drink it. And now it's gotten to a point where I'll have 3 water bottles and I'll be like, this won't be enough.
I mean,
So
that's
it's
good.
definitely,
That's a good.
there's definitely
Mhm.
a thing that you build with time. And consistency is something very important that you touched on too. I told you I just started kind of like doing mini home workouts. I'm not consistent with it at all. I just kind of see whenever I'm bored and have time, I just kind of do it.
Mhm.
I don't. Well, recently I haven't been consistent, but that's also time constraints and everything. So it's all about finding a balance.
All about finding the balance, man. That's the moral of the discussion here is finding the right balance, finding the right time, making good use of that time. But yeah, I mean, that's our
That's
take on
pretty much
snacking.
like the
Mhm.
like what we have for the whole podcast. Matter of fact, it's about balance, and no matter in what sort of conversation or aspect, that's a motif we've had throughout this episode is balance. You're talking about nutrition, it's balance, overnutrition, undernutrition. Make sure you got that right balance. You're talking about going out and partying in college, make sure you got that balance. Your priorities are straight. If you are someone who is struggling, or make sure your priorities are straight. Everything should be good over time,
Yep.
consistent, not stressed out. And if you have the right balance, then you're
That's all
golden.
that matters, really. Yep, 100%. But yeah, that's our take on snacking between meals and personally what we eat throughout the time, throughout the day and in between meals. But now, on the topic of actual meals and snacks, these are some foods that can prevent malnutrition for anyone that goes through it. Fruits and vegetables, starchy foods like bread, rice, potatoes, and pasta, milk and dairy foods like cheese, butter, yogurt, and then for proteins, you have meat, fish, eggs, and beans.
Which
Now,
is great. I think it's great you named that, because perfect. You get your carbs, you get your fats, and you get your proteins, and then you get your nutrients from your fruits and vegetables, all those minerals, all that good stuff.
yeah, yeah. Now, obviously, there's different alternatives to a lot of these things. For example, when it comes to bread, you have bread that's obviously filled with gluten. you have wheat bread, you have all these different types of bread. When it comes to rice, you have brown rice. Obviously, white rice is more of an unhealthy alternative when it comes to rice, but you have different alternatives. Potatoes, you have sweet potatoes if you don't find normal potatoes that fascinating. And pasta, is there any good alternative to pasta that I can think of? Or
I
no?
don't know. I think it depends on the type of pasta. If it's made out of rice or something, I think if you have some sort of gluten allergy, you should be good to go.
Or plant-based? Is that a thing?
A
Plant-based
plant-based,
pasta?
I think, is what I'm thinking about. Yeah, if you have
Yeah,
plant-based pasta and something you can enjoy.
yeah, for sure, for sure. In terms of dairy, you have butter, you have grass-fed butter, and all these different alternatives compared to like
And
regular butter.
yeah, and just a
Mm-hmm.
side note, if you are someone who enjoys dairy a lot, if you love milk, um, one thing about cow milk is that it has a lot of fats and we've all heard about it, cow milk is pumped with,
Mm-hmm.
hormones or whatever. If you're someone
Mm-hmm.
who genuinely loves milk, I suggest you try the plant-based alternative. And compared to cow's milk, something like hemp milk, for example, or almond milk, or anything of the style may have fewer calories of protein and carbs. Now, this isn't so much a problem for when you're uh, lacking nutrients, is more of so when you're over consuming and you kind of want to keep enjoying the meals or keep enjoying whatever your diet without any massive change. So
Yeah,
if you're someone who loves milk, definitely look into that. It's something that you can go to a grocery store, get your seeds DIY. You can make some milk at home. Just turn on the screen, go on YouTube. Like, tech is crazy right now. There's nothing you can't do when you have the internet at the tip of your fingers.
yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. And just to wrap up this dairy section, this milk section, what is your opinion on almond milk? Do you like it? Do you despise it?
Depends. I've
Uh,
had it. I've had them of different types, and sometimes it's great. Sometimes it feels like they added sugar to it, which isn't nice. And it's not. I feel like it depends what type. If you're going with cereal, I feel like almond milk can complement certain cereals a little better than like regular milk. But I feel like I'd drink almond milk. It's something I'd enjoy it.
for sure. I mean, me personally, I don't really like almond milk, but I know a lot of people do, and I know it complements a lot of foods, like you said. So I just wanted to get your opinion on that. So yogurts. I mean, this is a big one. You have your regular plain yogurts. You have the yogurts that come in with a little grain, like the little grain packs, and all these little fruits and berries. You have Greek fat yogurt. You have all these different types of yogurts. But personally, I feel like kind of falls in the milk category, like you stated. Like it's almost like if you overconsume a certain amount of yogurt or a particular yogurt, it's kind of within that milk situation as well, where you kind of don't want to do that same thing. I don't know. What's your take on that? Because I feel like when people think of like Greek fat yogurt or like just Greek yogurt in general, they see it as like this the healthiest thing that I can consume for like a snack or whatever. But kind of falls in line with that milk aspect where you have to like watch what you're
Depends, man.
putting in.
Depends a lot. Depends if you're a dairy person or not. I know some people
Yeah,
who they've seen me drink a glass of milk. They think I'm the most disgusting person in the world. And then there's people who can't eat anything if it's not with cheese. I know my father, I've seen this a lot with like my uncles too. It's just we come from Hispanic culture and usually we have
mm,
dairy with our meals. So,
yeah,
if there's no cheese, they start freaking out. They're like, "Where's the cheese? Where's the cheese?" And it's
yeah. Especially the cheese that we eat.
you already
The
know if
queso.
someone's traveling from one country
Yeah,
to another, you know, that one thing they want from that country is cheese.
for sure, for sure. That's really true. Or sweet bread. The panes and all that type of stuff.
Oh, that
But
type of good
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, all that good stuff, man. Love it. But last section to talk about is proteins, meat, fish, eggs, and beans. Now, Obviously, meat is a big one because the first thing you want to put in front of you or think of is red meat. Like how much red meat should I be consuming? Or what type of meat, or how well I should cook a certain steak, or what have you. Personally, I feel like we all know that overconsumption, overnutrition of red meat is obviously a bad thing, but with regulation and if you picking the right foods and the right alternatives, I feel like meat as a whole shouldn't be depicted as like this good or bad protein, this double-edged sword of a protein, because it all depends on what you choose. Well, what's your take on that?
Definitely, definitely. Like I said earlier, the protein bar I eat has 12 grams, and I not nowhere in the ingredients did I read beef, chicken, fish, steak. Nah, it was, eggs, not even just eggs, egg whites. They add different sources like almonds, different like source of protein. They kind of just put it together. So if you're someone who is into protein, we definitely see a lot of vegetarian people who work out, bodybuilders who are vegan, and people look at them like they're crazy. Like, how do you get all these muscles? What you mean you eat no meat? And it's possible. You don't need to eat meat or animal products. However, like I said, like the motif of this whole podcast, if you find balance, it shouldn't matter.
Exactly. I mean,
technically, if someone finds balance, they can do anything they want. And some things are just things that, for example, look at alcohol. There's people who have great balance of it. People who drink socially, people who drink with friends, people who don't drink every. And then there's people who fall into the cycle who drink every weekend. People who, even drink every day. You know what I'm saying? And it's something that, if you have balance, you should be fine. It's all about that balance. And when it comes to red meat and all that type of stuff, I think if you eat red meat every so often to the point where it's not causing you harm, then I'm not going to come up to you and tell you to stop eating red meat. You know what I'm saying?
I love my red meat, steak, beef, but at the end of the day, I'm not gonna be here and overconsume it because I know what the end effects could be when it comes to red meat. But I know how to regulate it. Like if I'm having steak on a Monday, and maybe my mind says, you know what, make some burgers on Tuesday, but I see that I have a good fillet, a good fish fillet ready to get cooked or fried or what have you, then I'm gonna go with the fish. So it's all about just deciding and just having that balance when it comes to meats. If you really love red meats, think about the alternatives: chicken, fish, and all the above. Seafood.
Exactly. It's the same way. If you love milk, think about all the alternatives to milk. That way you don't have to constantly be. Don't get me wrong, milk is a great source of calcium and it's a great source of certain fats or whatever, but you don't want to be fueling your body off of things, it's like when it's like, imagine a car, you go get gas for your car. You want to make sure that gas has the perfect balance. Like, what type of gas do you get for your car? You get premium, you get regular. And people treat their cars better than they treat yourself. Like, how are you going to go put premium in your car? How are you going to drive around your Mercedes Benz or in your fucking BMW? You're going to go or whatever luxury car you have, you're gonna go get gas, and then you're gonna get the most expensive gas just to stop by McDonald's. Like, are you serious? Like, if you're gonna put some good fuel into your car, which it could be a car that's worth $100,000, your life is worth more than $100,000 because you're going to make more than $100,000 in your lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm getting that amount of gas, I might as well go to the ShopRite that's like 3 miles away and buy me some good produce, buy me some good stuff to make me a healthy meal. Not like you stated, not drive by the local McDonald's and get me. I mean, don't get me wrong. When we're in that struggle phase where we don't have the money or maybe the food, and you're that hungry and you just want to stop by to quickly get something, that's fine. But like you said, if you're putting that much importance on the amount of gas that you want to put into your luxury car, treat your body the same. Treat your body like that luxury Mercedes and say, you know what? No, I'm gonna go buy myself some ingredients and make myself a healthy meal because my body deserves it. Just like how that premium luxury car deserves that premium amount of gas, treat your body the same way. But yeah, I mean, those are foods that I found that can prevent malnutrition. And that pretty much wraps up the nutrition talk and pretty much wraps up the episode. We're gonna wrap up.
Right before we go,
Go ahead.
give me the disability fact of the episode today.
All right. So the fact is, cerebral palsy does not directly affect cognitive ability. Although 50% of individuals with cerebral palsy have a co-occurrent intellectual disability, and intellectual disability is not caused by the same sorts of brain damage as CP. And this was taken by Flint Rehab.
All right, so
an article written by Flint
elaborate
Rehab.
on that a little bit. What exactly does that mean here?
So pretty much, CP doesn't really affect, like, when you see someone with CP, and they tell you that they've had brain hemorrhages or brain damage when they were born, it's not because of the CP itself. CP affects the motor function of many parts of your body, but the brain damage that some individuals with CP get, the cognitive ability, the learning deficiencies that they get, is always caused by something outside of that. Never the sole aspect of CP, because CP directly affects your physical ability, never your cognitive ability. So when people have brain damages or intellectual damages when they're born with CP, it's never directly related to CP itself. It's always something else. Anything you want to say for that or comment on?
I think it's something very interesting to think about, and I think that stigma on mental health should be eliminated. I also believe in balance a lot, which is something I've been talking a lot about this episode, is balance. So
For sure.
If you are to have a mental disability or any type of disability, you have a different balance than the rest of us. We can still achieve the balance that you need for your body and for your life. And I think that that's something very important that you should never lose a grasp on, is balance.
Definitely was the motif for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. That stuff's going to be going in the title and description. Balance. Remember to have the proper balance. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps it up. Great episode. Thank you for joining me here, bro. It was a pleasure.
It's been an honor, man. It's been an honor.
Appreciate you making the time, because I do know that you live a busy life outside these Zoom meetings.
Of course, man. You know, it's all about finding
episodes.
the right balance to balance your time, to make time for the things you want to make time for.
We're going to put that in future merch, ladies and gentlemen. Find the right balance. But nevertheless, this is episode 9. We're one episode away from double digits. Big, small number on paper, but big number morally. So we'll see you guys next week for the 10th episode. I have to think what I want to do, actually, because it's a big number when you think about it. But yeah, that was it. This was episode 9.
First double digits.
Yes, sir. Thank you for joining me once again, Wilson, and hopefully we'll see you down the line. Who knows? Make a return.
Of course, absolutely, man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your day. Have a good one. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for listening to Jason. It's always something. Always want to listen to whatever Jason has to say. There's always something insightful.
I appreciate that. Much love. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap up myself. You guys take care. Thank you for listening. We will see you guys next week for episode 10. Take care, everybody.